Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which means it's time once again for another one of our weekly viewer specials. For those of you who have never seen one of these videos before, then here is how it works. Every single Monday here on the channel, I like to show off games from you all, the viewers. It's a nice way to not only really come together as a community and cheer each other on, but also showcase some decks and or build/strategies that I might not normally have the time to get to. If you are interested in submitting for the viewer special, it is very simple. All you need to do is head down to the description below. There you are going to see among those links an invite link to our Discord server, the Hexlex Plex. Once you're in there, under the Master Duel section, there's a channel called Viewer Special Submissions, and there you can drop your 9-digit ID so I can view your publicly saved replays. Please do make sure your replays are set to public and that this number is entered correctly. That way I'm able to see your duels. If you have a specific game that you want me to see, make sure you leave either the date and time and or your opponent's name, just some kind of identifying information. You can also submit more than one replay at a time. That is totally fine. If you've got like 15 different replays, you want to submit all 15, go right ahead. The only thing I ask you don't do is submit the same replay, multiple weeks in a row. But yeah, all right, I think that pretty much covers everything. Let's start taking a look at some of your games. Okay, our first game comes to us from Deck Tester, aka Tester, over on the Discord server, who's got a game playing Voiceless Voice versus Macco. I believe it's this game for the WCS qualifiers right here. Being a WCS qualifiers game, unfortunately, I'm not able to look at the deck list, but that's all good. We're going to take a look at this battle of the ritual decks. Voiceless is such a cool deck. I actually almost built it, and by almost built it, I mean I even pulled from the new secret pack on stream. But my pulls, I don't know, they were fine overall, but I didn't pull any Voiceless cards. I pulled a bunch of random URs and like 4 of the Nephthys Link monster, so I'm not planning on finishing my Voiceless build for the time being, but it's something I might come back to at some point. Anyway, we're starting off really strong here. We got the low and the barrier here, but they have an Ash Blossom 4-hour barrier, which is not the most ideal. Looks like we're going to try to shuffle back the Skull Guardian to get a good draw here, and we do end up finding the Saphira, so I think that was absolutely worth it. Saphira is going to dump the Ritual spell, and of course just grab back that Skull Guardian, while also allowing us to be able to Ritual summon the Skull Guardian here. Voiceless is just such a cool deck. It's so, like, it's simple, but it's very, very effective. Alright, so we get the low summon as well as the Skull Guardian search here. It's going to, of course, grab Ritual Sorvis. We're going to set this Super Poly and then pass. Super Poly being an excellent tool for the Voiceless deck, which has a wide open extra deck here. So it looks like our opponent's going to go prep for the Ohime, and then Hare, going to link that off into... Is this Almirage? It is Almirage, yep. Alright, we got the Ohime effect, which is going to add the Huli. And pitching the Spirit Walking there. Or Spirit Walk, not Walking. Getting to special summon the Huli. But we do have to contend with the Almirage Destruction Protection here. Which Tester does admit they forgot about. But that's, that's perfectly understandable. It's so funny that, like, how rarely Almirage's text actually comes up. This card could actually be a vanilla, and it would still be, like, just as good as it is right now. Alright, so they're getting to make some progress on their Macco board here with the Hare being equipped with the Mayowashi Dori. Looks like Aberest is equipping to the Huli. Huli F gets to add the Rivalry from deck to hand. Macco's one of those decks where, like, the gameplay loop might not be, like, the most robust, but it's still very annoying. So we're going to go Super Poly for the Mud Dragon here, so that way we don't lose. You might be wondering, like, why we did that, but remember that, of course, the Macco monsters can reflect damage, and our Skull Guardian had well over 4,000, well, not well over, but it had over 4,000 attack points, so if we would have taken those 2 attacks to the Skull Guardian, we would have just lost there. So that Super Poly looked really weird, but was 100% necessary. Alright, thanks to the Mud Dragon, our stuff's going to have target protection. That's going to be pretty handy. Getting to go for the barrier effect again here. Going to give the Saphira effect, pitching the Sorvis in order to Ritual Summon one of our Skull Guardians in hand. Alright, looks like Skull Guardian and Low both get to activate here. And our opponent hasn't really fired off anything in response just yet. We, of course, know this is going to be the Macco rivalry, which I actually don't remember what that does off the top of my head. Try to face a monster in the field equipped with an equip spell. Okay, yeah. And then that usually is going to end up being some form of removal or another, right? Alright, Mud Dragon and Monster... Effect Monster Sorvis are going to go into SP Little Knight here. Little Knight does target, so unfortunately the Huli protects most of their board. We can still force the face down here. The rivalry gets to activate, but we get to negate it, of course, thanks to the Skull Guardian F. And now it looks like we're going to link off for an Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, which will not only take care of the Huli, but also negate the effect of the Hare, which means that we can safely battle into it. Does this one target? I think it does, right? Yeah, target cards your opponent controls. That's pretty much the only way I think we're getting through the Huli there, which I think is one of the reasons why this deck ends up being so annoying to play against, is that target protection across pretty much their whole board there. Okay, so we're going to go with Lurie. So we're going to summon the Low, which lets us activate Blessing in order to ritual summon the Skull Guardian, which will of course in turn bring back the Low, let us search, and turn on the Skull Guardian negate. This is what I think is so cool about Voiceless Voice, honestly. It's like, again, it's very simple, but extremely effective at what it does. I think the thing that I like most about this deck is that it seems to me that it does require a fair amount of skill. Like, it's a very skill-testing deck in the regards that, you know, because you only have so many points of interaction, you really do have to make the best use of them, knowing not only how your opponent's deck plays, but also just the overall ability to, you know, manage each situation. So that was actually really funny. I kind of glossed over that for a second, the Engraver sending itself. If you're wondering why that happened, it's because our whole field has target protection right now. All of our monsters anyway, thanks to the barrier, our light monsters... Oh wait, is it the Low? It's one of these cards. I always forget which one it is exactly. I think it's the barrier. Can't target light monsters you control with card effects. Yep, that actually includes the Underworld Goddess, which also is unaffected by things unless they target. So Underworld Goddess plus Barrier actually ends up being like complete protection, because again, this just says your opponent cannot target light monsters you control with card effects, not light rituals, not, you know, warriors or dragons or whatever. It's any light monster. So yeah, Underworld Goddess is effectively a tower, is on top of the rest of our board, also having protection. Of course, we also get to negate the Mayowashi Dori summon from the graveyard effect thanks to the Underworld Goddess too. The card is just absurd. Don't sleep on Underworld Goddess. Like, a lot of people, I think, just kind of think of it as like, oh, it's the IP target that you can make, you know, using one of your opponent's monsters. And that's kind of the extent of how they view the card. But there are a ton of use cases for it. It is an extremely powerful card. And in this game, we got to make use of all three of its effects in order to really devastate our opponent here. So, hell yeah, that was an excellent duel. Thank you very much, Chester. We do, of course, still have a couple more to check out. Let's go into the next one. Alright, our next game comes to us from Night Mango. Night Mango has a duel with a pretty interesting sounding deck. It's a WCS game, so unfortunately I can't show the deck list, but Primite Crystron is what we are going to be playing today. We're up against Sword Soul. So I think that Sword Soul is a pretty nice bar as far as, like, you know, if your deck can consistently be better than Sword Soul, then it's worth exploring as like a competitive idea. So I'm definitely eager to see how this one plays out. Primite with Crystron, eh? And here's our vanilla monster here, Gen X Controller, which does make sense. It is a machine. I wonder if we're going to make use of the fact that it's a tuner as well. I mean, surely we are, right? Okay, so not like the most we could do here. As Tristaros, while being a powerful new card, isn't like quite like one card combo by itself. At least it doesn't do much until the opponent starts playing, which of course they're about to start doing here. Yep, as soon as Emergence gets activated, we can use the Tristaros effect, and we're also going to Drill Beam the Emergence too. Very aggressive play starting off on the opponent's turn here. Alright, so Tristaros is going to summon the Sulfaneer, which in turn is going to synchro for the FA Dawn Dragster, providing Another spell trap negate. Looks like they're going to go for normal summon the Sword Soul of Moye, revealing the Golden Sword Soul. Getting a sync for 8. I imagine this is going to end up being Chi Xiao. Okay, it seems like your opponent's about to go into a pretty standard Sword Soul combo here. God, when was the last time you saw one of these? But again, like I said, I think this is a pretty decent bar to have to clear, right? To prove that your deck has merit worth exploring. Alright, there's Longyan and the token, which are going to, of course, synchro into Baron de Fleur. They're popping the Lordly Load and not the Dawn Dragster, which actually makes sense considering they don't have anything else to put on the field here. If they're not able to win this turn, they definitely want to take the resources off our board. Alright, there's Inclusion, which is one card combo, so nice to see that. Gonna lead with the Ether Barrel here, which does end up baiting out the Chi Xiao. Looks like we're trying to bait out disruptions from our opponent before we commit to activating Inclusion. We get to reset Drill Beam here, and then we're going to activate the Inclusion F, adding Sulfador. Sulfanier effect is activating here in order to special summon itself and then pop itself. So let's just activate the effect of Sulfanier. Baron's going to negate that. But we do still have more we can do. That Sulfador gets to pop Inclusion in order to summon itself, and then that will also trigger the Inclusion effect. Or does that activate by banishing itself from the graveyard? Okay, it activates by banishing itself from the graveyard. I thought it was when it was destroyed, but there we go. Getting to bring back the Tristaros, which means we can Synchro Summon again into level 7. Probably going to be Elaskeltis. Yep. Alright, Elaskeltis F gets to add back the banished Inclusion. Moving to battle phase here, we can battle over the now weakened Baron de Fleur. Which is really nice because it means they won't be able to get the revive effect for something like Golden Sword Soul. And also won't be able to then go into Baron again. But we're not done yet. During main phase 2, looks like we're going to get to tag out and then go into our Cyber Dragon Fendi, which will then get to eat the Chi Xiao. So I can definitely see the use case of Primite here because it doesn't look like the Inclusion combo line really needed to use our normal summon at all. So we can normal summon Ether Barrel and set up Drill Beam for extra negates here. The Jinx being the vanilla also definitely does make sense. It's not only a tuner, but also a machine, so it perfectly fits our archetype. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they tried to Ash our Tristaros. We're going to negate that with Infinity, and then we go to Drill Beam, their actual effect, which is enough to get them to concede there. That seemed pretty effective to me. I don't know. I think Crystron overall is definitely better than, at least slightly better than I gave it credit for. I mean, to be fair, I did put it in tier 3, which I think is about where I would keep it, but I almost put it in Rogue, to be fair, and I think it's definitely been at least a bit better than that. But interesting new combination of archetypes there. Jamming Primite with Crystron. Thanks for showing that off, Zine. And we got time for one more, so let's finish off with that last game. And our final duel for this video comes to us from Super Dark Aqua, who's got a game with Goblin Biker Fiendsmith. This one was on ranked ladder, so we get to see the list here. And it's looking like a pretty standard Goblin Biker list. I still have been meaning to make a video for this deck. I have everything for it. Obviously, I have the 3 grand breakout that I've been playing in Memento. I did play this deck in viewer duels on stream. On my first stream back, actually, I had the first of the month. But the thing is, I went second. Like, I lost the coin flip like almost every single game. And this deck has a noticeably hard time when going second, in my experience. But that could have just been a skill issue on my part. Alright, looks like our opponent is going to be playing Mermail Atlantean. Pretty standard looking build as far as I'm aware of how the deck plays, but excuse me, sorry about that. Alright, let's go into this last duel here. Alright, looks like we can take the first turn. And this hand isn't combo, unfortunately. Well, no, okay, sorry, blurry. I missed that. I thought this was a hand trap for a second. I just saw level 1. I do that occasionally. Like, I've never done it to the point where I, like, miss out on plays, but every now and then I look at my opening hand with Lurie, and I'm like, oh, nothing. All hand traps. And I'm like, wait, no, Lurie isn't a hand trap. I think it's because it has a low level, low stats, and also, like, I know the effect doesn't actually activate from hand, but Lurie isn't always the monster I think about normal summoning right off the bat, so I think my brain tends to sort it into hand traps sometimes. Dominus Impulse on the Engraver is pretty brutal here. Yeah, it means we're going to have to pass. There's not much we can do from that point, setting the Grand Pile up before passing over to our opponent. Alright, so they are leading with Abyss Pike, pitching the Shadow Squad, which is definitely not what you want to see. That's, of course, the most annoying... Okay, actually, no. The thing that a lot of people think is the most annoying part of Mermail Atlantean is the hand ripping, but I think the most annoying part is resolving effects if you use them as a cost, which obviously like the whole point of the deck, right? But even still, that's what I find to be irritating. It means that hand traps like... Valor, Imperm, and Ash Blossom have a really difficult time being very effective against the deck. Droll, on the other hand, which we have here, does usually end up being extremely effective against the Mermail. But yeah, like everyone is always annoyed about the hand ripping, but I don't know, it doesn't really get to me that much, because here's the thing, right? Here's how I see it. If my opponent is getting to a point where they can, like, style and combo to hand rep 3 cards from me. Like, if they can summon Moulin Glacia, like, they probably could have just done enough to put out an unbreakable, quote-unquote, unbreakable board anyway, right? Like, at that point, you obviously didn't have the hand traps to stop them. There is a point to be made against the Minstrel, the one that, like, also looks at... The one that looks at your opponent's hand to rip, because Moulin Glacia is 2 random, I believe. Or 1 random and 1 your opponent picks, or something like that, but... The Minstrel is very annoying. That can rip hand traps before you have a chance to use them occasionally, but I think for the most part, if Moulin Glacia is coming down, they could have done a different line and still just beaten you. I will say, this is the first Mermail Atlantean player I've seen not just concede right away to the Droll and Lockbird, so props for that. Too bad Water doesn't have Promethean Princess. That would go crazy here. And by too bad, I mean, I'm very glad Water does not have its own Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess is already, like, in my opinion, still too powerful. But... Alright, so we get to go for the Gone Wild here. Gone Wild summons Doug Charger for Grand Breakout. And this is pretty much just full combo at this point. Ooh, going for the Mean Merciless, which lets us special the Clatter Spluter, or Sploder. I was going to call it Spluter, but it's Sploder. We get to overlay for the Big Gabonga. Does this have a quick effect, this Link 3? What does this do? Water monsters in the graveyard. You get an equip spell. If this card is owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add stuff. Okay, but we're not going to pop it, we're going to attach it. And this is probably enough for lethal. Yep, that is enough for lethal. Hell yeah. Love to see the Goblin Bikers in action. And that was, you know, even though we did get to go first, for all intents and purposes, that pretty much was a going second game, considering our turn 1 didn't really yield much of a board. So, props for winning that one. Very, very good stuff. Thank you not only SuperDoc, Arqua, and everyone who's featured for submitting, but thank you to everybody in general for submitting. Could not do the viewer special series without your submissions, and I really, really like this series. It's my favorite one that we do here on the channel, so I really do appreciate the support. But that is going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you for watching, especially all the way to the end. Let's move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.